First visit since November. A lot has happened since November. We had Baltimore. And when Baltimore happened, living in Philadelphia, I was naturally concerned because I spent a lot of time in Baltimore. It's only a 90-minute ride from my home. It's also the city where my ancestor Frederick Douglass escaped from slavery to freedom at. And it's also the city where Queen Mother Harriet Tubman spent a lot of time. When you turned on the news and you heard about Baltimore, a lot of what you were told was incorrect. And on behalf of the brothers and sisters in Baltimore, who I consider family, I want to correct the record for you. Number one, the riot was not started by youth. The riot was started by crackers at a Baltimore Orioles game. Our young people were engaged in a peaceful protest surrounding the police murder of Freddie Gray. That protest march took them near the Orioles Stadium. It just so happened that during that march, the Orioles game let out. White folk were shouting obscenities at our young people. They threw bottles and stones at them while the police stood by and did nothing. They shouted the N-word, and the young people tried to remain as nonviolent as they possibly could. But seeing that their dignity was at stake, they retaliated. When Wolf Blitzer, Anderson Cooper, and Don Lemon presented to you on the situation in Baltimore, they conveniently left out the reality of why that entire situation started. We also know that the governor of Maryland had already decided that martial law was going to be declared before the rebellion broke. So this whole thing was engineered. Not only that, they told you on the news that the students of Baltimore had planned to flash mob one of the malls and destroy everything in it. The truth of the matter is that mall is right next to the transportation center where so many of them take the bus home. And on the day that the so-called infamous text message was sent out, you need to know that that text message came from no youth in Baltimore. That text message came from the police itself. You and I both know that if a text message went out saying that we're going to destroy your mall, they can trace that message to the phone and the person who sent it. That did not come from children. That came from the police and the FBI. And when the children got out of school, the police were waiting in full riot gear. And when the children tried to get on the buses that take them home, the police ordered them off and ordered the buses to leave without the youth. Standing between themselves and their homes was the police throwing rocks at the young people. So they began to throw rocks back. And then they brought up the infamous drugstore that got looted. They had no proof that black folks did it, even though there's traffic cameras all in that neighborhood. If a black person did it, they would have caught them on camera. Sorry. The police looted that drugstore. Next to the drugstore, strip mall, weave store, sneaker store, clothing store, chicken wing shop. So you mean to tell me of all the businesses that they could have looted, instead of weave and Air Jordans and some chicken, they broke into the CVS to get some Tic Tacs and mouthwash? That's what they want you to believe. And then Charleston popped. And when Charleston popped, that hit home especially for me because Dylann Roof murdered 5 queens in that church. But even more close to me was the fact I just left Charleston. I just spoke there 2 days before the situation happened. I just left. So when I get back to Philadelphia, turn on the television a day later, this is what happens. So we went down there and we marched. And then the Ku Klux Klan decided to come down there and march. State capitol in Columbia. And the governor of Charleston tried to reduce the killings and the reparations for the killings to a need for me to take down the Confederate flag. 9 people didn't die for no damn stars and stripes. But as white folk love to do, they like to control the conversation and thereby control the solution and the outcome. So the murder of 9 blacks got reduced to the Confederate flag. They didn't say we're going to put black people to work as a reparation. They didn't say we're going to do something about police brutality as a reparation. They didn't say we're going to improve the schools as a reparation. They didn't say we're going to improve the amount of blacks on the police force as a reparation. We're just going to take down a symbol of white supremacy. But we're going to leave the white supremacy in place.
Yes, sir.
The games they play. When Trayvon was murdered by Zimmerman, I was down there in South Florida when the verdict came out. You could hear a pin drop all through the night. Black folks were stunned. When Ferguson popped off, people said, what do you think? I said, this was bound to happen. Eric Gardner, bound to happen. Freddie Gray, bound to happen. Why was it bound to happen, Dr. Johnson? Because the first law of behavioral science is the behavior that goes unpunished by the victim.
Come on, bro.
Must occur more often.
Tell him.
Our reaction to Trayvon created the environment for Michael Brown to go through the same thing. Our reaction to Michael Brown created the environment for Eric Garner to go through the same thing. Our reaction to Eric created the environment for Freddie, and our reaction to all of them created the environment where Dylan Roof can go to Bible study and participate 60 minutes with black folks with the Bible, studying scripture, and then stand up and reload multiple times until everybody was dead. I'm not letting white supremacy off the hook, but I'm telling you that your reaction to what they do helps support and condone the continuation of that kind of behavior. So unfortunately, I have to say it again. There's something that's coming worse than Dylan Roof.
Sure.
I hate to say that, but it's the reality, because black people have let white folks get along and get away with too much wrong. And what makes it even worse is we've been all so quick to forgive the perpetrators.
Teach, brother. Teach on.
In nearly every case, we forgive the perpetrators. Brothers and sisters, President Obama said he wanted to put cameras on the police so we can see how they behave. Well, guess what? Eric Gardner's murder was caught on full camera and still didn't lead to charges against the police.
Yes, sir.
So the Eric Gardner case dismissed body cameras. Furthermore, we know that the police cover up the body cameras. Tonight, I want to talk about the greatest black leader in modern history. I want to talk about the provisional president of Africa. Not a man who called himself the provisional president of Africa, but a man who was elected by 25,000 Africans, representing every country on the face of the earth. In Madison Square Garden, 1920, elected the provisional president of Africa, Marcus Messiah Garvey. I got a text, some folks are running late coming in, but they can still get in, correct, Brother Ali? They can still get in? Gotcha. Marcus Garvey was born August the 17th, 1887. St. Ann's Bay, Jamaica. I actually was in Jamaica when the Prime Minister, then Prime Minister Golden, whose son is one of the active leaders of the Garvey movement in Jamaica. I was there when they made Marcus Garvey's childhood home a national monument. So Garvey was born not even a generation after the end of slavery. Frederick Douglass was still alive. So was Harriet Tubman and Booker T. Washington. Marcus Garvey was born as one of the last great leaders of the 19th century, the 1800s. One of the periods of our history that we need to study as much as Kemet, if not more, is the 19th century. Because from 1800 to 1899, black folk achieved more in that century than any century you've ever had since our fall from greatness on the Nile Valley. See, y'all skip over that and run straight to Kemet. Hotep, brother. Stop skipping immediate history so you can romanticize about ancient history. Study the examples that took place in grandmom and grandpop's time. In 1800 to 1899, you got out of slavery. 1800 to 1899, you got Pan-Africanism. 1800 to 1899, you had Gabriel Prosser, Denmark Vesey, and Nat Turner. From 1800 to 1899, you had the births and lives of some of the greatest freedom fighters of all time globally, from Shaka Zulu, the Menelik II, to Ya Isantawa on down, being born or living. That's the century we need to study. And we need to ask ourselves, how is it we got a Haitian Revolution? We got the end of slavery. We got more black inventions than we've ever had from 1800 to 1899. More independent black business from 1800 to 1899 than you did from 1900 to 1999. And I don't even need to bring up the 21st century because you ain't done much of nothing lately. And the question you got to ask yourself, if our ancestors from 1800 to 1899 can do all that, how is it we haven't even done the iota of their work, but we have more information about our history, our culture, we have more education than any group of Africans before our birth. And we have more disposable income than any African in modern history. How is it, Hoteppers, that you know everything about what we've been through? You done mastered the solar system, the zodiac, vegan food, raw food, Kemetic science, Dogon science. But you don't own a single institution. There's a contradiction. Harriet Tubman didn't know as much about African history and spirituality as any woman sitting here. Marcus Garvey, Fred Douglass, Booker T, they didn't know half as much as the black men sitting in this church tonight. But how is it they were able to do so much more than you?